OCO, Ashley Hubbard de Dongaba, Seat Slagi, Analagohi. Greetings. My name is Ashley Hubbard. I am a dual citizen of the United States and the Cherokee Nation, where I am a member of the long-haired clan. I am blessed with indigeneity on my father's side of the family and Scotch, Irish, and English descent on my mother's. I greet you in this way so that you can understand a little bit more about the journey I am on to become myself. In May, God willing, I will graduate from VTS with a Master of Arts, concentrating in Church and Witness. I will also obtain certificates in eco theology from the Washington Theological Consortium and Indigenous Studies from the Vancouver School of Theology. I have been asked to share a little bit about my recent experience on a seat with the Indigenous Anglican Church of Canada. This 21-day trip was based in the province of Manitoba, where I spent time in the capital city, Winnipeg, which has the largest Indigenous population of any Canadian city. I also visited reserves of the Tatasquiat Cree Nation in Split Lake and the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in the Pas. I experienced the histories, testimonies, and cultures of many First Nations, including Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene, and the Indigenous Métis peoples. I participated in rural and urban Indigenous Christian worship and explored theology in Cree, Ojibwe, and Oji-Cree contexts. Finally, I was invited into practices of reconciliation within the Anglican Church of Canada. Please consider deepening your seminary formation through an international and ecumenical SEEP experience. If you do not know where to begin, contact the VTS Center for Anglican Communion Studies. CACS has a wealth of relationships and resources that will transform your dream into an educational opportunity. Being the first VTS student to partner with the Indigenous Anglican Church of Canada, I felt it was important to focus on relationship building to prepare for my seat. At the invitation of Archbishop Mark MacDonald, I attended weekly gospel-based discipleship gatherings with members of the Indigenous Anglican Church of Canada. These gatherings allowed me to develop partnerships with my host families and participate in Indigenous worship and theologizing in context. I also attended the 2021 virtual World Council of Churches pilgrimage to Winnipeg, where I gained a deeper understanding of the ongoing violence, injustice, and oppression that Indigenous peoples of Winnipeg face, and developed skills for advocating and community organizing to decrease the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Indigenous youth suicide. I encourage you to remain flexible and open to the learning opportunities that present themselves during your SEEP. Hopefully, you will not have to negotiate international travel during a COVID-19 pandemic, but I can guarantee you that you will experience some form of disorientation and there will be surprises along the way. This is all part of the learning. In closing, I would like to share a story from my visit to Fisher Island, the location of the former McKay Indigenous Residential School. Founded in 1914, this school was federally funded and managed by the Anglican Church until 1922 when it burned. The school was relocated to Dauphin, where it remained in operation until 1969, and then was government run until 1988. In June of this year, after the remains of 215 bodies were discovered at Kamloops, The Opaskwayak Cree Nation began the process of searching for the remains of Indigenous residential school victims at the McKay School using ground penetrating radar. When I arrived at Fisher Island, there was a somberness in the air. The land was a flat, open field. I could see women in ribbon skirts waving metal detectors and marked off sections of the grass. Children were bent over collecting rocks and metal. I could hear drum beats and chanting as the groups moved methodically over the field, meticulously combing the area to remove any debris that would interfere with the radar. Would they find remains? Would there be as many as a suspected 751 found at Saskatoon? I could smell the sacred fire that had been burning for 3 days. And being invited into the teepee, I sat in solidarity around that sacred fire with Cree elders, listening and learning the disorienting stories of their past. Stories of abuse and neglect. The children were locked in the building the night the McKay fire broke out, and older students had to bust the windows so that the children could escape. I learned that students only attended school for 1 hour a day and labored the rest of the time. I heard survivor stories of physical and sexual abuse. I also heard stories of marriage proposals, laughter, and familial love. What a complicated history that needs to be told and heard. Sharing these stories, I learned, is at the heart of the process of truth-telling and healing in the Indigenous Anglican Church of Canada. My hope is that my SEEP experience might encourage truth-telling and healing in the United States, and especially within the Episcopal Church. Our own legacy of Indigenous residential schools, operated by the Episcopal Church and funded by the United States government, can and must be redeemed. May we have the ears to hear our own disorienting stories, the hearts to repent, and the courage to face our future. Thank you.